Welcome back. Today's lessons will focus on rational expressions. So, let's take a look at the first one. I have this rational expression x plus 4 over x plus 1. Now, what I'm going to do is to solve this, let's just say x equals 1. Well, if I do x equals 1, I'm just replacing 1 for x, I'm saying 1 plus 4 over 1 plus 1, which is 5 over 2. This is my answer, or if you are asked to put it in decimal form, this would be 2.5. Now, let me show you one other thing. Let's just say instead of x equals 1, we do x equals negative 1. Well, if you do x equals negative 1, you would say negative 1 plus 4 over negative 1 plus 1. That'd be 3 over 0. If you plug this in your calculator, 3 divided by 0, you will get an error. This is what we call undefined, meaning you cannot have a 0 in the denominator. Okay, next, I'm going to always have to give you an x to plug this in. So let's just say in this one, x equals negative 10. So if x is negative 10, wherever you see an x, you put the negative 10. So I'm going to put negative 10 in parentheses, minus 2 over negative 10 minus 6. So then what we'll do next is I'm going to say 3 times negative 10 equals negative 30, and then minus 2 over negative 16. That gives me negative 32 over negative 16. Pretty much the negatives cancel out, or two negatives make a positive, so 16 goes into 32 2 times. This is my answer. Now I can throw in some exponents. Y to the third over y squared minus 11. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to say y equals, let's make it negative. So that means what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to put negative 4 to the third power over negative 4 squared minus 11. Now notice one thing, put these in parentheses, because if you put in our calculator negative 4 squared, your calculator is going to square the 4 to make it 16 and then put that negative. That's not what that means. Make sure you put these in parentheses. So negative 4 to the third comes out to be negative 64. And then negative 4 squared is 16 minus 11. My final answer is negative 64 over 5. Now I can add a few more things. Let's just say right up here, we're going to say x equals, let's make it pretty simple. Let's do 2. So then what we're going to do is we're going to say 2 squared plus 6 times 2 plus 4 over 2 squared minus 5 times 2 minus 8. Two squared is 4, 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 over 2 squared is 4, minus 5 times 2 is 10, minus 8. So if we add the top together, you get 20. The bottom 4 minus 10 minus 8, you get a negative 14. We will probably be asked to simplify or to reduce. So 2 goes into both numbers, so it'd be negative 10 over 7. So on these expressions, we just substitute the value in for the correct variable. Now, My number 5 is find values to make expressions undefined. Undefined meaning if I go all the way up here at the top example, in this case, if this was my example and we did this on the right, when x is -1, that is where your denominator 0, that is undefined. That's what we're looking for in these expressions now. So that means the denominator is 0. What values make the denominator 0? Okay, let's take a look at the first one. One way we can also do this too is take your denominator and set it equal to 0. Add my 1 to both sides. In this case, x is 1. That means x is 1. So x cannot be 1 in this equation, because if it is, it's undefined. But what we're looking for is x equals 1. Take a look at B, x plus 8 over 2. So that means 2, I don't have a variable, so this one is an OK one. So there's no or none that will cause this to be undefined. Now what about my last one? Now before we start to see this and say, well, maybe it's 6, 6 minus 6 is 0. That's not what we look for. What we need to do is I'm going to leave the top itself. And then what I'm going to do on the bottom is I'm going to make it, well, factor it. Now, I've had some previous lessons on factoring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show us, again, you take your 6, 1 times 6, 2 times 3. Now, since this is a minus here and a minus here, that means I'm going to have a positive and a negative one. So that means I need to subtract either 1 and 6 or 2 and 3 to get this -1, which means I'm using this right here. So x, since it's a negative, that means in the 3 is the larger number, it's going to be x minus 3, x plus 2. So if you're looking at your parentheses, what makes that parentheses 0? Well, if I put x equals 3, 3 minus 3 is 0. And also right here, if I put a -2 in, -2 plus 2 is 0. So these are my answers that I'm looking for. So I hope this helps with this lesson of rational expressions. Be looking out for my next set of videos dealing with radicals. Thank you very much.